Hi, hello, good morning. I thought it might be fun to do another look with the Charlotte Tilbury Denim Dimension palette. Because I'm here, I'm going to do a look with it anyway. I thought I might as well just turn on the camera and we can also chat a little bit. I'm going to start doing my makeup because I have to get to work as usual at some point. I'm going to start with the Inglot eyeshadow base. And I figured we can have some random chats about makeup news. So, in a big plot twist, I actually purchased the Lisa Eldridge Betty palette. I literally, until yesterday morning, had absolutely no intention to purchase this palette. I had even seen leaks of it already like months ago, and I thought, that doesn't really look too interesting to me. Because if I have to be honest, like, palettes with purples really don't do too much to attract me. I don't mind purple, I actually really like bright lavenders as like inner corner pulse of color or like little accents here and there, but I can't say that overall I am one to be very excited for the color purple. So up until yesterday morning I fully believed that I'm going to skip that palette. Now when the launch came around, let me tell you what I'm doing for foundation first, because I do actually want to use my Prada foundation. This one is in the shade LN5. Now because this foundation is just a little too light for me, I'm going to slightly correct it with a little bit of the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade 2 and 1. So what I didn't realize is that she's also going to release a mascara in the shade Burnt Umber, and she has a pencil in that shade, which I can show you in one sec. This is the shade Burnt Umber. Let me give you like the absolute quickest swatch. This one here. It's this beautiful, you know, ochre, very red toned brown. Absolutely beautiful. I love the color of that pencil. These are the kind of browns that make my heart sing. And when I heard that she's going to have a mascara in that color, I was thrilled. And I haven't really used much colored mascaras in the past years for one reason or the other, but brown has always been one which is very difficult for someone who has dark eyelashes like I do, because if the brown is too dark, then it's never going to show up on my lashes. It's just always going to end up looking sort of like black. It has to be like a bright light brown which has enough pigment to cover my own lashes. And I got very excited because on the website, at least on the promo photos, it looks like regardless of the color of your own lashes, this color is going to show up like this specific shade. So I got very excited about the mascara and I thought, for sure I'm getting the mascara, but then I thought, okay, let me see a couple of videos. Well, a couple of videos. I watched Charlotte Holdcroft's video, because hers, I want to say, hers and Sonia Butler were the only videos that I had come across at that point that featured both products. And, you know, creators that I sort of trust and I rely on for Lisa Eldridge launches. Now, Charlotte H is very, she seems to have no critical viewpoint when it comes to Lisa Eldridge products, so I do think I personally take her opinions on Lisa's products with a grain of salt, because she's literally never said anything bad. I get it, she loves Lisa, maybe the products actually really work for her, whatever, but I just wanted to see how they work. And I was actually really impressed by the palette. The palette looked absolutely beautiful, but oh my gosh, that mascara looked absolutely stunning on her eyelashes. And if it looks half as stunning on mine, I will be elated. Oh, an important, a very important minor detail that I forgot to mention is that Betty is apparently limited edition, which is something I, till that point, hadn't really realized. I thought, you know, Betty will come around, I'll have enough time to think about it. If I really want it, based on, you know, what other people are going to say about it, I'm going to eventually purchase it. But as soon as I realized that Betty is limited edition, and I know Lisa Eldridge is not one to keep her limited edition products around for a while, I'm going to take the One and Skin Correct Concealer from Dior as usual. I figured, you know what, it may be one of those instances where I buy now and think later, in the sense that if I really end up not using Betty all that much, I can always resell it because it was limited edition, and I am sure there will be people out there who will have missed on this release. So I thought, I'm going to get the palette, I'll see how I get along with it, and then depending on my opinion of it, I will either keep it or I will pass it on to a friend or I will sell it. So that's how I ended up purchasing Betty. Not to mention, of course, that Betty is inspired by Lisa's cat, and you know I'm a cat person to my core. There's an actual cat in the room right now with us. You can't see her because Mona, I'm talking about Mona, she's sleeping in the laundry bin, which I hid behind the bed so that it doesn't ruin the, you know, the ambiance here. And nothing warms my heart more than being in the presence of a feline. So I am yeah, very excited to get the products, and knowing Lisa Eldridge, I have very little doubt that I'm probably going to really like them. The thing I also really like about her palettes is that you can swap them around. So if I end up thinking that some colors from Betty belong better in other palettes from Lisa Eldridge, I can always shuffle things around or just make my own palette at some point if I'm traveling or something. I'm going to take the Prada Reset Rebalancing Powder, the minty one. So that was Lisa Eldridge. Prada still has not released the diamond quads anywhere that I can purchase them. So I'm just waiting. And let's see how long they take to come here. I think because I've purchased a few things in the last week, my makeup monster has been temporarily fed and I'm not in a super rush to buy them. So now I'm really going to wait until they hit Look Fantastic and I can buy them on sale. I'm just going to smoosh the powder a little bit here with my sponge. But they are still on my radar. I think I'm going to get at least 2, and I think I'm going to aim for the 2 lighter shades. I'm not sure about the darkest one, just because it features that, you know, blue-brown type pigment, you know, blue-brown from MAC type pigment that I'm not the hugest fan of. I like the browns in that palette, but there are also browns that I have a lot of because I like them so much. So I think in terms of uniqueness, the lighter palettes from the range add something to my collection. I'm going to quickly do my brows off camera because that's just such a boring step and you've seen it like a million times. I figured maybe we can stick with Charlotte for bronzer. I'm going to take the Sunkissed Glow Bronzer in the shade Medium, which is a cream bronzer, but it sets really nicely, so it's not really a problem if I want to put the powder over it. And I figured we could maybe also briefly mention about the Louis Vuitton with creative, or like whatever they're calling the beauty brand that Louis Vuitton is going to release under the creative direction of our Lord and Savior, Mother Dame Pat McGrath. Because I'm sure that a lot of you have already heard the news and a lot of you have opinions about it and a lot of you have thought about it. So I thought maybe we can exchange, you know, we can have a nice discourse in my comments later on. But the thing is, I think some of you have also asked what my opinion on that is. On the one hand, I was a bit surprised. On the other hand, I was not. I think Pat works a lot with Louis Vuitton in terms of like the fashion shows. And personally, because I don't really care much for the Louis Vuitton brand, I don't care for luxury brands, like, period. I don't really follow fashion trends. I'm not someone who follows like the runway or anything, so I don't really know much about Louis Vuitton as a brand. The only thing I can tell you about their brand is that their luxury bags do not inspire or appeal to me in any sort of way. If I were ever to buy a luxury bag, Louis Vuitton would be the first one to drop out of the list of, you know, of my wish list. So I have no feelings when it comes to the Louis Vuitton brand, but I know Pat works a lot with them on fashion shows, so in that sense, it's really not a huge surprise that they're doing something together for a beauty brand. This would also not be the first time that Pat McGrath is contributing as creative director to, you know, brands or contributing to the creation of products. The Armani Luminous Silk Foundation was her creation. She's also been creative director for Procter & Gamble. So in that sense, it's really not at all a surprise that she's doing something for another luxury brand. Now we're going to do something that I think you're really going to like. I am going to go back into my YSL Nocturnal Nude blush, but I thought it might be fun if we compare on my actual face how this shade compares to the Suqqu 08 blush. So I am going to apply on my left cheek, so on this side I'm going to do the YSL blush, and on the other side we're going to do the Suqqu, just so we can actually compare on my face. Maybe I should have started this before applying bronzer. Now it's too late. I'm sorry about that. Well, anyway, so back to the Louis Vuitton x Pat McGrath, well, not x, you know, Louis Vuitton makeup brand under the creative direction of Pat. They're going to come out in the fall, The products are going to, like, the whole line is going to be launched in the fall, and there are going to be about 1 million lipsticks, 8 eyeshadow palettes, and I think lip glosses? I could be lying. Something in that range. And I don't know if someone told me or I read somewhere that this whole thing has been cooking since 2019. And the only thing I care about is the labs, okay? The only thing I care about is what happened to the labs. And if you put things in perspective, I mean, it sort of makes sense that her own brand suffered a little bit and went on the back burner, because she simply hasn't had the time for it, you know. The sunshine that she is, Dame Pat still cannot shine on everything. She's, after all, not the sun. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I'm going to do the Suqqu blush on this cheek, by the way. And she strikes me as a person who just wants to do a lot of things. And I don't want you to get me wrong. I completely understand that. I also always want to do all of my projects. I always want to do all of the experiments, preferably all at the same time. But that is unrealistic. In reality, it means that some of my projects are going to be at the forefront and some are going to go on the back burner until I have time to, you know, revisit them. So I think that's a little bit what's happening here. As much as she has wanted to remain in the steering wheel of the labs as well, the matter of fact is that her brand suffered, and you could see in the releases that she's somewhat involved, but it's almost like it's an afterthought, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's quickly compare the blushes. So, we've got YSL Nocturnal Nude on this side, and we've got Suqqu 08 on this side. I mean, you guys, I don't think that one can really tell the difference between the two shades when it comes to them being blended on my cheeks. Something that I think you might notice immediately, because I also pointed out when I swatched the two products, this applies in a way that very few other products are able to apply as. And I don't want to directly compare these, because the one from Suqqu, the melting powder formula, almost feels like it is a cream, so it's almost unfair to compare it to something which is a more traditional powder. And while the YSL blush is beautiful and blurring and it has that soft focus finish, I mean, look at the Suqqu one, right? Again, YSL, Suqqu. Please do let me know in the comments what you think of this comparison. Like, the naked eye will never be able to discern between these two colors. I'm doing this especially for my US-based friends, because I know that you guys still have no access to the shade Nocturnal Nude. So if this helps you because you have the number 08 from Suqqu and you were lusting after Nocturnal Nude, just bust out 08 from Suqqu to get your Nocturnal Nude needs satisfied. For my highlighter, I'm going to take Golden Nectar from Dame Mother Pat. So yeah, honestly, it sort of like tracks in terms of the timeline of when you could see slowly that her brand is starting to, you know, fall back a little bit with the releases. I think especially the first few years, maybe it was not felt that acutely, like the years between 2019 and maybe 21. But after that, you could slowly see that maybe her attention was more focused on the runway and on this new launch with Louis Vuitton. And she sort of started doing her own brand as a bit of an afterthought. I don't know whether after the release of this Louis Vuitton brand, she will finally grace us with products worthy of her own namesake brand. I can only hope that. And she's been throwing hints around, I want to say the last couple of maybe weeks, that maybe there's something else coming, but I'm not holding my breath at this point. Okay, I'm going to set with the Airbrush Flawless Finish setting spray from Charlotte Tilbury. I haven't finished the MAC one, but I'm going to take my son to town today after school. So usually on Mondays I pick him up from school around 2:15, and then we either head home or we head to the city if the weather is nice, and then we have coffee together. He extortions a little present out of me, and because I'm weak, I usually fall for his badgering. So we are going to head to town, and I would like my makeup to stay very nicely put. And I can't remember how the Prada foundation wears. I want to say it wears fairly okay, but just in case, I'm setting with this setting spray because this really holds up. Okay, I've zoomed you in a little bit, and we are going to dip a little bit more into these more like navy, royally type blues. Although I'm very tempted to maybe go back into one of those, definitely the topper shade. So, well, let's see how this goes. But I think the first shade I'm going to take on my little brush here, which is very good for packing and blending, is going to be this one here in the right corner of the palette. This shade is a molten satin, and I'm going to apply this as a one and done on my lids, and I'm going to apply a very light layer because it is a deep shade. I think this is going to be somewhat of a smokier look compared to the one that I did before with the cornflower leaning blues. So I would not call these three necessarily what I would typically call a cornflower blue, but I think they have a cornflower blue vein running through them, and that's why I like them so much. I love cornflower blues. Cornflower blue is my favorite undertone of blue. Ooh, that's pretty. So this is going to go all over my lid. I'm going to blend it through the crease. I'm not going to use any browns to, you know, help the situation. I'm just going to use this shade. And like I said, because it's quite dark and smoky, I am going to work in increments. So I'm very curious what everyone thinks about this whole Louis Vuitton X Pat McGrath Labs. Well, it's not X Pat McGrath Labs, it's Louis Vuitton, Pat McGrath Labs for Louis Vuitton. I don't know how it's called. But one thing that I'm expecting is that these are going to be very expensive. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know, maybe if you compare it to something like Valentino or the Louboutin makeup brand, they are more expensive than the traditional luxury brand makeup items, makeup products. So it's possible that these Louis Vuitton things will be more expensive. I read somewhere, I think it was somewhere on one of the announcements, that they are going to launch worldwide in like hundreds of stores worldwide. So I expect they will be available everywhere, and we're not going to have to fight over which region gets them first and be jealous of each other. Hopefully everyone gets them, and we all have, you know, at least the option to try if we wanted to. And you can bet that if I am going to purchase anything from that line, it will not be because of Louis Vuitton, but it will be because of Pat, and because I'm hoping that, you know, some of these products are going to have her signature style. And be baked gelée. Is that really lame? I'm really hoping that these eyeshadow palettes that she's launching for Louis Vuitton are going to be baked gelée. Okay, that's really pretty, and I'm not going to go any further than this in terms of like the depth of the color, because I don't want to end up with an extremely dramatic smoky eye. I'm just going to apply a little bit of my Inglot shade here as my brow bone highlight. Next, I'm going to take a little pencil brush, and I'm going to go into this deepest matte brown right here. And that's going to be, I'm going to apply that here very close to the lashes, a bit as a liner. And I'm going to smoke it out here at the outer corner, but I'm going to apply a very small amount because this shade is quite dark. And again, I am not going for a deep smoky eye. So do let me know all of your thoughts on this. If you have any additional information, please do share with the rest of us. I think we're all dying to know what's happening. But yeah, a bit of a surprise, at the same time not. It just sort of puts things in perspective and maybe explains why her own brand has been a bit forgotten about. That's very nice, I like that. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of glitter glue to apply on my lids. And again, oh, I'm very tempted. You know what? Maybe it's overkill, but we're going to do it. I'm going to apply a little bit of this shade, and maybe I'm going to apply a few flakes of this shade, because this shade is actually very, oh, that's very pretty. Oh, maybe I want to have that on my lids. You know what? Scratch that. I'm going to put this shade on my lids over glitter glue and maybe put a little bit of the topper here, because I would like to see this like royally blue shade. It's a very pretty shade. I want to give it a moment to shine. In totally unrelated news, I went to the movies on Saturday to see the new Bridget Jones movie, Mad About the Boy, and oh my gosh, this movie lived up to the high standard that the previous Bridget Jones movies have set. It was so good. And obviously, because of the premise, this time we're getting a bit more of like a bittersweet story, and they really like kept coming for you throughout the whole movie with like the emotional part of it. But there were moments when I literally had tears streaming down my face from laughing. I'm going to take this shade now just on my finger. Emma Thompson is back as the gynecologist from the third movie, and there was one specific scene with her where I had like almost tears streaming down my face from laughing so hard. The movie was heartwarming and funny and just such a beautiful closure to Bridget's story. I really enjoyed it. Have you guys seen it? Are you fans of the Bridget Jones movies? I love the Bridget Jones movies. I feel like they stopped making good romantic comedies in this day and age. I keep revisiting movies from like the late 90s or the early 2000s because they were heartwarming and sweet and funny, and I haven't really had that impression with any of the new romantic comedies. That shade is so pretty. Okay, because I can't help myself, I'm going to pop a tiny bit of this one. Just in like the center portion of the lid, just to see what happens when we mix them. Ooh, that's pretty. Just like the tiniest bit, because I still want to put the topper shade as well. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of the topper shade, so this one here. Maybe I should have cleaned off my finger, but that doesn't matter. And I'm going to pop that right here in the absolute center of the lid to create a little bit of dimension. Grabbing my little pencil brush and going into this shade here in the very center, which is like a silvery blue and is the, you know, perfect inner corner for this palette. It's a very intense shade. It's one of those like chunky, somewhat chunkier texture shades, so you have to be careful. I think if you apply a little bit more concentrated amount of this shade, you are going to get texture on your lid, so you have to be careful with this shade. But this is the only shade that has this quality to it. The other ones are very smooth. Finally, I'm going to take just a very fluffy small blending brush, and I'm just going to go back into you know what, let's mix it up a bit. I'm going to take this matte shade here to run on my lower lashes. I think that might be fun and not too dark of a blue, and I kind of want to see how the different undertones of the blues play with each other. I think that looks lovely. I have a little bit of Velvet Muse from Lisa Aldrich, just, you know, a nice little rosy nude to complete the look and not distract too much attention from the eyes, because, you know, the eyes are really the statement of this whole look. What can I say? I actually quite like this palette. This is still not a complete review, but based on my first and my second impression, I can only say positive things about this palette. I really think this is the kind of palette that you should go for if you really enjoy blue eyeshadow and you think, you know what, I want to have all the blue eyeshadow in one place, because I'm sure that between different like palettes you probably have most of these blues except for like the cornflowery denim type blues. All the other types of blues you probably have in other palettes. But if you're someone who absolutely adores blue eyeshadow and you want to have, you know, a compact little palette that has all the blue undertones, finishes, and you know, you want to get a variety of fun looks just using blue and you want to knock yourself out with all the blues, then I think you're really going to enjoy Denim Dimension. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about the look in the comment section below, about Pat McGrath Labs and Louis Vuitton, about Bridget Jones, you know, all the random topics that we discussed in this video. Oh yeah, of course, and the new Lisa Aldrich release. I think that's going to be the next video we're going to see each other for, because I expect that the Lisa Aldrich things will be shipped quickly, and they're shipped from a warehouse somewhere in the Netherlands, so I think they're going to be here within a few days. As usual, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!